Yo, what is up, guys? In this video, I'm basically going to be going over the most important settings in every setting in Rocket League that you need to know about, what you should actually use, and what you should not use absolutely by any means necessary. So let's get right into it with the training tab. Whenever you're in free play, this stuff is very, very personal preference. A lot of pros do use unlimited all the time, but some pros like to sometimes go for standard boost so then they can practice their kind of small pad pathing like this around the field, and having to actually use 100 boost on aerial plays rather than having unlimited at their expense. So then they can practice feathering their boost more and stuff like that. But you can't really go wrong. Either or is completely fine. I know a lot of pros also like disable goal reset, so then they can just kind of feel like smoother in free play. The ball just goes in and stays here rather than having to like reset the ball every time or stuff like that. But this is all personal preference. Doesn't really matter in the big picture. Now, also with the game speed, you can put this lower, to do slow mo, but I would not recommend it because if you do put it to slower, you see it is slow. But then when I reset, now I'm back to normal speed, right? It bugs like that. It doesn't work very well, unfortunately. So if you're gonna play slow mo, I would do it through Backus mod. So I would go free play. Um, So I would go current game, sorry, and then I would do 0.75, right, 75%. And then now you can see I'm slow mode. And even if I reset the ball, I'm still slow mode. So I would do it through backless mod because the in-game system does not really work for this, right? So that's the training tab. For the gameplay tab, this is all I use. I have show competitive ranks off. I don't want to see my ranks because I think knowing where you are in terms of your rank is something that can very easily tilt you and stuff. So I just have it off. Also, this on main stats only is really good because if you have it on all stats, like whenever you get a save, for example, like you're on like your goal line, you get a save or something, then it's gonna have like this big pop up in the middle of your screen. It's gonna be like save plus 300 points, or like same with like center balls and stuff. It's a lot of clutter that I don't think is very necessary, and so I got rid of it. But everything else here is just default, I'm pretty sure. Now, moving on to the most important, arguably, the camera settings. Now, here, there's a lot of things that you can work around. So, firstly, camera shake. Obviously, we're in 2026. We're not using that. That's completely understandable for everyone. Now, with everything else in here, this is preference, but only, in my opinion, to an extent. So, what I would recommend for each person is that there is a range that you should use, right? And anything in that range, that's complete preference. But if you're outside of that range, especially by big margins, that's what it's going to kind of get bad, right? So with field of view, the range is very small. It's literally just 109 or 110. Most pros use 110, like over 70%, but I do know some who use 109 just because they, I don't know, they like it, right? And so if you use either 110 or 109, that's fine. Now for distance, the range here is 260 to 280. So if you use 280, it'll look something like this. I think this is too zoomed out. I don't feel very nice mechanically, with these camera settings. I feel like it's a little too zoomed out for me. I also know a lot of people do use 260, like Drawley uses 260, for example. I've used 260 for a decent amount of time because it's, closer to your car, maybe a bit more mechanically precise. But the middle ground of both of those, the more vision and still good mechanical precision is 270, which is, again, most pros use 270, but it's a lot of anywhere between 260 and 280, I think is fine. But anything under 260 is already too low, and I would say anything over 280 is a bit high. Like 290 is already, like this is a lot, and I know even some people use like 300. Like this is like from this you're gonna like it kind of is gonna have diminishing returns on like how much vision you gain and how much like mechanical skill you're gonna lose, right? So you're it's just not very good in my opinion. So I would go 260 to 280, literally whatever you want in that range. Now height. Height is an interesting one because height and angle are very kind of together on this. So what you have as height matters with your angle and vice versa. So the kind of range for height is usually 90 to 110. Right. There are a very, very low amount of people who use 80, I think, as well. Maybe literally like one pro or something, I think. But Most people use like, I believe 100 amongst pros, and there's a decent amount of pros who use 110, good amount of pros also who use 90. I would say those are about equal, like how many use 90 and how many use 110, but I think 100 is the most used one. But anywhere from here, again, this is personal preference. Maybe you like, the low heights and you're a little bit more low to the ground, or maybe you like the kind of higher view so you can kind of see, above and stuff. It's very much personal preference in this range, but again, I would not go higher than 110, and I would not go lower than 90. Now, with that, you also have the angle. So if you're using the angle to with your, height, I would say anywhere like -5 or maybe even -6, which is what Jolly uses, and I tried this for a bit. Like this is the lowest you should go. So you should not go lower than -6. You should not go -7, and all these on the side. -6 is the absolute furthest I would ever go. And the absolute highest that I would ever go is like -2. I think -2 is like fine as well. So -6 to -2 is the kind of angle that I would go for. Personally, I am currently on 100 and -3, which is the Zen ones, but I've used a lot of different heights and angles. For me, this is the thing that I changed the most about camera settings. Like I've used 90 -5, which is a little bit lower. I've used 90 -3 before, but I don't really like this anymore because I feel like it's too low to the ground. Um, I used to use back in the day, I used to use 110 and -3, so like a much, much higher one. It's really just all like kind of what is your play style and what is the kind of height that you want for the way you're playing. But I like 100 -3. And now onto stiffness. This is basically right, just how fast your car moves when you start speeding up. So you see, like if I'm speeding up, I start getting zoomed out more, right? So for stiffness, there's a decent range where like if I have a really high stiffness, you see how like my car is not moving further away very much when I speed up versus when I'm slowed. So with stiffness, ideally it's like between like 0.3 and like 0.4, somewhere between here. Like most pros I believe use like 0.35 or 0.4, but I do know some who use like maybe a bit less, like 0.2, 0.3. And I do know some who use higher, like 0.45 for like Drawley, I think. But like no one really goes over like 0.6, I think, and no one goes really under like 0.3 in like the pro level. But most people use like 0.35, 0.4. I use 0.4. I like it myself, but I do switch between 3.5 and 4 on this one. So total speed, basically just how much you need to move your camera, or your right stick rather, to move your camera. I like this on max. I've been experimenting with this for a while. I just think like if I'm over here and I want to see fast, like I just want to do a small movement of my joystick. I don't want to have to do like a incredibly big movement of my joystick just to be able to see around. So I like it on max. If max is too quick for you and you can't like, actually visually confirm anything with it, because I do know, if you're like, you might not actually be able to like confirm anything that you're seeing here. So it could get hard. I would just lower it, but I personally like it at 10. Now, swirl or transition speed is something that you should definitely increase. I used to play on 1 for the longest time, so I actually didn't know that you were like supposed to really switch this. And like now I look at it, I'm like, wow, this is so slow. But it's basically just the time that it takes, right, for your car or your visual and your camera to switch from ball cam to car cam. You see how long this is taking? Like it takes a while for me to get information, whereas if I have it on my 1.6, see, I get it much faster. Now, this is again preference, but most pros use between like 1.4 to like 1.6 or 1.7. I would say like 1.4 to 1.6 is fine. For me, 1.7 is already like too quick. Like this is really quick. And you like, there is a point where like it gets too quick, again, kind of like the slow speed. If you feel it's too fast for you and you can't actually like confirm information and it feels weird on your eyes, then I would lower it. But if you think you can go faster, then I would increase it, right? So a good starting point is to go like 1.4, and then, try to work it up from there. Maybe see if you can use 1.6. If 1.6 is too fast, again, lower it and all that. Demo transition time should always, always, always be on 0. There's no debate here. This is just, makes no sense to have it higher, because this is literally just going to give you more information whenever you get demoed and you respawn, right? So like when you respawn, you're going to know which side you're respawning on earlier. which there's no reason why you would want to know that information later, right? Because it doesn't help you. So, and then invert swivel, like now I'm moving my joystick to to the other sides. It's just, I don't know why you would really have this on. I, I really don't know why you would have this on, to be honest. It's a very random thing, but yeah. Now moving on to controls. My sensitivities are both 1.5, which is I think what Zen uses still. Controller dead zone 0.8 or 0.08 rather. And then I use 0.75 on dodge dead zone. Now for these, I actually don't know like all the ranges of like what most pros use. I do know that most pros use sensitivities of like, under 2 is like what most use, I believe. Because it's like anything over 2 is like, it's quite high in terms of mechanical precision. It's just harder to be precise on those. But I would say what I would do is I would pick like a pro's settings and then I would work from there. So what I did was I literally picked Zen's and I like for all 4 of these, which was 1.5, 1.5, 0.06, and then like 0.8, I think he uses dodge dead zone. And then, I like the senses, so I kept those the same, but then control dead zone, I thought it was a bit low, so then I increased it to 0.08, especially because I had a bit of stick drift, which I don't have anymore because I have a higher dead zone. And then dodge dead zone, I lowered it a little bit from 0.8. Sometimes I went down to 0.6, but then, now I'm back on 0.75 because I've been backflipping a lot. This is all just a lot of testing, like what works for you. If you're backflipping a lot on, like let's say like 0.5 or something, put it up a little bit, test it a little bit higher. If you're not always backflipping, but you're always doing this, just jumping rather than, trying to flip, then maybe lower it, stuff like that. So it's just a lot of trial and error and just kind of finding what works for you. But the way I would find what works for you is to pick some like one pro settings and then start adjusting those. Like if the senses feel too high, lower them a little bit. If the senses feel too low, higher them, increase them a little bit, all that stuff. Now, none of this stuff matters because I'm not on keyboard. Keybinds are basically very simple, right? These are all my keybinds. I have regular arrow, free arrow, not binded because I think it sucks. I do not use it, and I do not recommend anyone else to use it. I also use boost on RB or R1 for PlayStation players. And the reason for this is very simple because I think it just benefits a lot to have boost on RB. So if you look at my camera, or my controller overlay, sorry, it's like very hard. This is not my boost button anymore, but it was very hard for me to like button smash my like A and B to, fat finger them to do fast aerials, for example. But now when I got, boost on an RB, it's like, it's way easier to hold these 2 buttons down at the same time, So that's what I do now. And I've been enjoying these binds a lot, and I would recommend anyone to make the switch as well if they want to, get into like high ranks. Because the thing is, like, I got the GC3 without fast aerialing properly, but I could definitely tell you that having this skill now to be able to do it, and I'm not even, perfect at it. I still mess up a lot, but it is a very, very big game changing skill to have. So I would definitely put boosts onto R1 or RB. Everything else is pretty much like default, close to at least. Arrow left on L1 or LB, and arrow right on B or circle, right? So and then everything else is default over here. So interface, not much to go over here. I turned off, or I put just the time updates only, right? So I don't have a bunch of match notifications. Nameplate scale, I put to max because I think having it on max makes it better to just see people. You can see them from further away. If you're dribbling, you might be able to like see the edge of like, a nameplate box because it's so big that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have seen. So I think having it on max is very good. I don't really know why you would have it any lower, to be honest. Everything else here is just kind of random, really. I don't think any of this stuff really matters. I do have ball cam indicator turned off as well, like that thing on the bottom left, because I thought it was just kind of random screen clutter that I don't really need. So I turned that off, but I would always keep on like ball arrow because I think this is really good to have. So you just kind of have an indication of where the ball is, even when you're in car cam for a second. And so that is interface for you. Now in video, literally just everything off, everything unchecked, everything performance, or high performance, the lowest you can have, except for render quality, because, if you put this on high performance, then your game starts to look like this, which we're not trying to do. So I would keep this on high quality and everything else on low. I play borderless because I think firstly it's better to tab than full screen, right? Your screen doesn't go black and all that stuff. And also I think it's just better for input delay and FPS. VSync, have this off. This is just the worst thing to ever have on. No point. Same with anti-aliasing, just increases your or lower your FPS. And then frames per second, I would not cap this at what it recommends usually. So like, for example, I have a 144 hertz monitor, so it recommends to cap it at my hertz, right, at 144. But like, I can tell you right now that once I just cap this to 144, my gameplay feels considerably less smooth because I'm on the max hertz. But if you put it to the one that's above your hertz, so you put it to 240 if you have a 144. If you have a 60 hertz monitor, maybe do like 120 or 90. If you have a 120, do like 144 or maybe 240. If you have a 240, I would do 360. And if you have a 360, then you could probably just have it at 360 because uncapping it is also something that you should never do, by the way. It just increases input delay and kind of lag. So I would always have it just on the one that's above your actual hertz because this makes for the smoothest gameplay. And I can already feel like compared to the 144, which is what my hertz is, so it should feel good, right? Like, no, this feels so much better. And I was told this by a friend of mine like months ago, and when I switched, like I never came back, bro. This is just so much smoother than actually running the capped one. So that's for video. Audio, literally nothing here. I don't think any of this matters. Chat, quick chats if anyone cares. Now for chat here, I would turn this off if you get tilted easily from chat. For example, if your teammate starts like trash talking you, turn it off. You should literally just turn it off. Or if you don't want to turn it off, but because you want to know if they're doing the kickoff strats and stuff, use this one. Lock non-tactical quick chat. That means that the only quick chats that people will see will these first four ones, the informational ones, like the Spanish calls or the back left or back right kickoffs and all that. And if they're being toxic and they're spamming, take the shots and those quick chats as well that you would then see, then just I would turn it off entirely. But usually I would just go for those team ones first if they're just what is saving and stuff, because maybe they still want to do some kickoff strats, maybe they might lock in later. So you never know. But yeah, that's essentially all my settings, and this is what I would recommend you guys do. It's a lot of just experimenting around, finding what you enjoy, finding what works for you. But I would base a lot of the stuff that works for you off of the pros, because obviously they're the people who get paid to play this game, and they will look for any edge that they can, and they will have the most optimized stuff a lot of the time. So pick their settings, but then adjust them to your own liking, and don't just blindly stay one-on-one for their settings just because oh, Zen uses this. Like Zen is the goat of the game, and I love his settings, but like I changed the dead zones and stuff because the senses felt good, the dead zones didn't. So that's just all up to you to figure out. Now, thank you guys for watching this video. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching, I do replay analysis every single day whenever I'm free on my Metafy. So if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description for all of that stuff. And I will see you guys in the next video. So peace out.